Mr. President, we remember when you first were giving your acceptance speech of the nomination of the GOP convention. You said at that time that 1 year from now, when I take over the White House, I am going to reestablish the rule of law in this country. And you've done that, Mr. President. We thank you for that.
Thank you.
Very, very much.
Thank you.
You know, behind me, Mr. President, are 44 sheriffs who are representing 35 states that came here to Washington for 2 reasons. The first is to go to Congress, up to the Capitol today, hold a press conference and let Congress know enough's enough. We have been for 20 years asking Congress to move on the security aspects of immigration reform, and nothing has happened for 20 years. But what's really amazing, Mr. President, with your strength of purpose, the commitment to your convictions, you've done more in less than 2 years in supporting law enforcement and dealing with this illegal immigration problem that we've been asking for solutions on in less than 2 years. And again, all these sheriffs and the sheriffs across this nation are so grateful to you for that, Mr. President. And like so many of the promises that you made, you have come through, and the energy that you've put behind law enforcement in supporting us on our partnerships with 287G, going after MS-13 and getting them out of our neighborhoods, to building the wall, Mr. President, you've really been amazing. And so before I present this plaque, I just want to add one thing that maybe you heard about, maybe you didn't. But when we were on the Hill today, we announced that the National Sheriff's Association has done a crowdfunding page to raise money and mobilize the citizens of this nation to get behind you, to get behind the sheriffs, to build this wall. So in having said that, I would like to present this to you, Mr. President, because it's not surprising for any of the sheriffs who are here that shortly after you took office, people started saying, the citizens and members of the media saying, there's a new sheriff in town. And that's an endearing statement, and all these sheriffs know it. Because what it denotes is that there are problems, and somebody is coming in that's going to be able to fix those problems. You've done that, Mr. President. We can't thank you enough for your support. You said you have our back, and the sheriffs across this nation have yours. And God bless you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, that's really nice. This is an honor because when I was running, I think number one on our list was law enforcement, taking care of law enforcement, working with law enforcement, and really we have to create guidelines and principles for the incredible job you've done, and you've done an amazing job. And I will tell you, a lot of times you're scorned and you're looked at by the media because the media is very dishonest, much of it in this country, very, very dishonest. And the job that you've done in light of all of the things that you have to go through, I guess a little bit like me also, but I will say that you have been really outstanding, incredible people. Crime statistics are down. We're really doing well, other than you take a couple of places on a nation where they have different policies than what we would put, and you know where I'm talking about. But there are a couple of places they don't believe in what we believe. But we have together done something very special. I also remember so well, Sheriff, when we were together, I said, we're going to get you a lot of military equipment that you weren't able to get, and it was sitting in warehouses all over the country, and in many cases, Mike, in other countries, you remember. And we brought it back home, and you were able to get great military equipment like you couldn't afford to buy in your budgets, and we gave it to you, and it protected a lot of people. We have a lot of people living today in your profession that would not, frankly, be around right now without the protection of that kind of equipment that we have sitting around waiting and doing nothing and just drawing dust. So the fact that you gave me this award is something very meaningful. I will put that in a place of great honor in the Oval Office, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you. Thank you all.
Same
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, the group picture, absolutely. Make that a good picture. I want to get it done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. We support you, sir.
I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration.
Hey, I asked the sheriffs, can you imagine this? We have somebody in what I call the failing New York Times that's talking about he's part of the resistance within the Trump administration. This is what we have to deal with. And, you know, the dishonest media, because you people deal with it as well as I do, but it's really a disgrace. I will say this. Nobody has done what this administration's done in terms of getting things passed and getting things through. An article was just printed, just came out a few minutes ago. Trump breaks the record for budget gridlock wins, scores big win. So for 20 years, it's a 20-year record. For 20-year record, they call it the fouled up budget gridlock, and scores big win. Here's your thing. So this just came out. So in 20 years, it hasn't been like it is now. We broke it. That's just really positive stuff. And then, in addition to that, point after point after point, if you look, almost 4 million jobs created since the election, of which many of you. More Americans now employed than ever recorded in our history. So we have more people working today than at any point ever in our history. We've created 400,000 manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing jobs are growing at the fastest pace in more than 30 years. Economic growth last quarter was 4.2%. And as you people know, it was headed down big, and it was a low number, very low number. It would have been, in my opinion, it would have been less than zero. It was heading to negative numbers. New employment claims recently hit think of that, the unemployment picture in the country is the best it's been in 49 years. African American unemployment lowest in the history of our country. Asian American unemployment lowest in the history of our country. Hispanic American unemployment lowest in the history of our country. I mean, I'm just looking at these, just point after point. Under my administration, veterans' unemployment reached its lowest in many, many years. Let's see, almost 3.9 million Americans have been lifted off food stamps just since my election. Then you go into all of the benefits that we got from the tax cuts. All of you people benefited tremendously from the tax cuts. Thank you, sir. go into regulation cuts. You go into right to try. Right to try is where you have the right, if a person's terminally ill, you have a right to go and try and see whether or not a drug that's not approved yet can be used and utilized. They didn't allow that. Point after point, getting rid of the individual mandate, the most unpopular thing there is in Obamacare, coming up with new health care plans. We've never had a period, even if you look at the Olympics, the World Cup, you just saw them, they were in my office, got the World Cup. Nobody has, and we have started the wall. Nobody has ever done in less than a 2-year period what we've done. So when you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, no. And the New York Times is failing. If I weren't here, I believe the New York Times probably wouldn't even exist. And someday, let me just tell you, and someday when I'm not president, which hopefully will be in about 6.5 years from now, the New York Times and CNN and all of these phony media outlets will be out of business, folks. They'll be out of business because there'll be nothing to write and there'll be nothing of interest. So nobody has done what this administration has done. And I agree, it's different from an agenda, which is much different than ours, and it's certainly not your agenda, that I can tell you.
Thank you.
It's about open borders. It's about letting people flee into our country. It's about a disaster and crime for our country. So they don't like Donald Trump, and I don't like them because they're very dishonest people. Remember this also about the New York Times. When I won, they were forced to apologize to their subscribers. They wrote a letter of apology. It was the first time anybody's ever done it because they covered the election incorrectly. So if the failing New York Times has an anonymous editorial, can you believe it? Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial. We're doing a great job. The poll numbers are through the roof. Our poll numbers are great. And guess what? Nobody is going to come close to beating me in 2020 because of what we've done. We've done more than anybody ever thought possible in, it's not even 2 years. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.